And we are live. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Yet you had a nice week, and all that. Welcome back for another, well, actually the first in English Eurobubble therapy, where you see them on screen. I invited a couple of very good people to discuss EU news and other random stuff with me tonight. So I will briefly introduce them. For first, we're gonna Sn0r. Sn0r, for those who don't know him, is the administrator of Forum Götterfunken, who is a community of pro-EU people on Discord and Reddit. And my second guest with me tonight is Karim, who is a Spanish YouTuber specializing on European politics. And briefly, do you want to add something about yourself before we dive right into it, Sn0r or Karim?
Well, I'll start, Karim, if you don't mind. Like MEP said, I'm the representative of Forum Götterfunken, which is a pro-EU community where we discuss EU matters, breaking news, and we try to support people like Karim and Mepassistant, of course, to get the message out, basically. So, yeah.
Karim, something to add on your side?
That it's been a little bit more than 1 month that I'm full YouTuber and streamer. That's the only fact that I want to highlight because I'm really happy about it. And the rest, I think it's really set.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, and we're very happy for you that you're finally succeeding in making it your full job. Let's start by the beginning. Let's talk about news. Lots of stuff has happened this week. So, Karim, let's start with you. What are the two pieces of news that stuck with you this week?
Well, first of all, I wanted to highlight something that it's been on Twitter, the beef between Elon Musk and Thierry Breton once again, because I think people now they are discovering that there's a beef. This is coming long time ago, from at least April this year. That's one thing. Basically because it's been really discussed, the attitude, the tweet that Breton sent to Musk. And the other thing is something that I discovered because of a Spanish journalist here in Brussels, and it's about the general expenditure allowances for MEPs, that is going to be changed and it's not going to be controlled by rule. Because so far as I've read, now it's not controlled, but that was like extra officially. Now officially it's not going to be controlled. So they're not going to be accountable for when, why, to what they are expending that more than 4,000 euros. These are the two news.
Well, let's start with Musk and Thierry Breton. So for those of you who haven't caught up, Elon Musk has finally bought Twitter, I think for $44 billion, something like that. Yeah. And so on Twitter he bragged, say, now the bird is free. Because he's been making a lot of noises about the fact that he wants to, let's say, reduce the amount of content moderation on Twitter to allow all kinds of views to be expressed on Twitter. And so after he tweeted that, Thierry Breton kind of bitch slapped him in a tweet saying, "Well, the bird will have to fly under EU rules when it's in the EU," which is a reminder to the new. Platform rules, the digital single not the digital single market, the Digital Services Act, which basically introduced a lot of rules for platforms in the EU in terms of content moderations, in terms of liability. So it's kind of the list of do's and don'ts for platforms that they have to follow. So indeed, it was a good slap down of Thierry Breton, even if like you said, Karim, it's not something really new, because like they've been dancing around each other for quite some time. I mean, was it it was in April that he was in the US, and basically Breton went to the US to the HQ of Elon Musk, and they're trying to show it. Oh yes, we agree on the fact that we want a free internet, but the free internet needs to have rules, etc., etc. But there's been like a lot of suspicion around Musk, especially since like there's been a lot of I mean, he's been tweeting some dubious things. Remember the tweets about Ukraine, where he said, "Oh yeah, I had a good discussion with Putin, and here's my plan to have a peace in Ukraine." And he's just like copy pasted what Putin told him. Some other things like that were borderline anti-Semitic. So yeah, Musk and being in control of Twitter. Depending who you're talking to, it's either great news or a bad news.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, in the European Union, they were afraid, let's say, or were like uncomfortable because maybe the purchase of Musk of Twitter could mean that people like Donald Trump are coming back to Twitter. I don't know. That's been said by EU people that that's not a big deal, that he can come back, obviously, to Twitter and so on. But well, that's part of the beef that we have. And yes, as you were saying, last April, Breton, he was in the US with Musk, and something that I was surprised is not only the tweets but the video that they made for Twitter, in which it's a very short video. I think it's 1 minute or even less, in which it's basically Breton and next to him is Musk, and Breton starts talking directly to Musk like, "We're really happy, we have been discussing everything, the SA, blah 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 blah, and well, we agree on everything." And then you see Musk like he's uncomfortable, he's a little bit like nervous, and it's strange because normally in Twitter,
it looked like to me. To me, it looked a lot like a hostage video. It was like Thierry Breton had under his coat a weapon, and there was Musk standing there going, "Oh, yeah, I kind of agree, but I mean, I think we all know who has the pants on in this relationship. I mean, the EU with our Digital Services Act and the Digital Markets Act, which were basically, I think, agreed on this earlier this year.
Yes.
This is a big hammer, as it were, and we kind of, the EU kind of preempted the US administration in its quest to curtail the power of the social media companies, and of course, I mean, Musk cannot be happy with this, and I think, I mean, I was kind of looking at the tweet as well. That was tweeted this week by Musk, and then the reply by Thierry Breton. And you saw that lots of people were unhappy with what Thierry Breton said, but many more people liked that tweet. So, I was very, very kind of encouraged by this, that people understand that there has to be some kind of detente with the social media companies. I mean, the idea isn't to limit the free speech of people, but to make sure that there is a functioning content moderation on these platforms. Mm-hmm. And I think this was a big thing that was kind of missed this week. I mean, Musk did tweet later on that there will be a content moderation board.
A bit like Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's encouraging. He understands that he doesn't live in a vacuum, as it were. There are other parties involved. So I was quietly happy with what Breton said. Oh, I'm a fan anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here it's clearly the another chapter of the EU, like showing its teeth when it comes to digital regulation. Because I mean, we know that since GDPR, so since data protection, that the EU always prides itself at being like the first to regulate social media and all that, even if that's also done to an extent in coordination, at least for the DSA, done in coordination with the US, so that they don't stray too much apart. But yeah, indeed, it's going to be interesting to see what part of what Musk is saying is pure communication and what will be actual policy of Twitter. Because at the same time, Musk has always been saying, "Oh yes, but of course we will follow the rules of the laws of every country." So yeah, he said yes, we will follow the rules in the EU. That's not a problem for us. But it'll be interesting to see what he makes of it. I'll go briefly about the second news that Karim mentioned. So about the general allowance. So since I'm a former MEP assistant, I know quite well this allowance. So just to explain what it is. So every month, MEPs receive about 4,000 euros from the parliament that is supposed to be spent on whatever they need to have a functioning office. So basically, it's phone bills, office furnitures. It can be the rent if they are renting an office space in their constituency. So whatever they need to materially have a functioning office, they receive this 4,000 a month, and they don't have to justify anything about it. And in theory, at the end of the year, they're supposed to give back all the money that they didn't use. In theory. In practice, I haven't heard of many MEPs that do that. And it's true that over the years, many MEPs have been using these general allowance expenses as a form of second salary. Because it's given to them, they have to put it on a different bank account, etc. But since there is very little control from the parliament, they just pocket the money and they use that as a form of second salary, either completely or the money that remains they don't give it back to the parliament and they use it for their own purposes. And it's been like a very, very long and recurrent fight in the parliament. Like every year when you have like the budget discussions in the parliament, you have amendments from the Greens particularly, who want to have transparency on the use of the expenditure, or at least like additional rules, more controls, etc. And every year, as a form of cross-party miracle, you have a majority that blocks these amendments with a coalition coming from the right, from the left, who doesn't want these kind of controls. And every year, of course, you have the Politico that makes an article saying, Parliament is ridiculous, etc., etc. But yeah, it's let's say a complicated topic, because like beyond the fact that indeed you should have transparency, like the arguments that are used against these transparency arguments against this expenditure, it's a mix of, let's say, arguments that are make sense to an extent. Like there is one that is based on the idea of the freedom of mandate, which is that MEPs are supposed to be free to do whatever they want to exercise their mandate, and so the administration should not be able to interfere with that, meaning that the administration should not be able to tell an MEP, why are you renting an office in this part of town? Why don't you go in a cheaper part? It's the MEP say, I want to be in this part of town. That's it. That's how I want to do my mandate. So it goes in. It starts from this, and also then there is an argument about practicality. Because the one thing that MEPs say that is true is, but we don't want like to have to justify every single expenses. If the parliament has to do control, it's a lot more staff that needs to be hired. Like I think they were saying up to 70 people that would have to be hired by the parliament to do the checks. Doesn't mean that everything should have been checked, but as an assistant, I can say that while big expenses should definitely be, you should have transparency over that and everything. On the other hand, if you have to fill a paper to the parliament whenever you're buying stamps or whatever, it becomes a bit ridiculous. I mean, we have other things to do about that. But I mean, I think there's a middle ground to be reached between the absurdity of both sides. Let's say.
I think that's the problem, that the middle ground has not been explored and has been rejected completely. And I read there was a suggestion from one vice president, in fact, one of the Greens, and she was saying maybe we can give like. You can take for granted 1/3 of these 4,000, and then you have to justify the 2/3, and then to make it mandatory to give back everything that you have not spent. So maybe that's one way. But I think in the end, it was like a little bit less than 40 million per year, the money that is flowing because of this GEA. So it was quite a lot. And especially with the Euroscepticism, I think this is a really bad fact to be able to highlight.
No, I think so too. I mean, this is a topic that's always used by the Eurosceptics and the Eurocritics, to be honest, as well. You know, I mean, there's good arguments to be made for this transparency, and yes, there are of course the MEPs which abuse this, but there's also a lot of people that do what they're supposed to with the money, you know. And I think this bit of legislation will kind of highlight which ones are the nice ones, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, this can be a good way of getting rid of, you know, some of the the rancune, the bad feelings, which are, I mean, everyone that I've spoken to, in real life, who's not really involved with the EU, does mention these kind of things. How's the expenses, and then the EU is expensive. The EU is actually not that expensive. I think I saw a statistic last which put the entire EU budget around the size of a typical East German city. So it's not like there's a lot of money that's been going around, but it's about the perception in the end, and I think that's really bad.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a perception from the public and also inside the bubble, because like the parliament is always very keen and strong on criticizing the council, the commission, member state. How dare you misusing money? How dare you appoint Martin Selmayr, etc. And then when you look at the internal kitchen of the parliament, well, 4,000 euro. Well, you want us to justify that, but how dare you? Oh well, we need a new secretary general. Oh well, I'm gonna take my ex. My ex-head of cabinet. So yeah, it does not like help the credibility of the parliament, because then the council, of course, like criticize rightfully the parliament for that, and then gives them a good excuse to say, oh well, but we're not going to give you more money because you're not given what you're doing. It's not exactly good administration and all that. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely something that could be done, but to be honest, I think that the middle ground, everyone knows what would be an acceptable middle ground, and what the ideas that you mentioned, Karim, have been around for quite some time. I think it's more a matter of the MEPs. Majority of the MEPs still want to keep the free money that they get from the parliament and not have to justify it. That's unfortunate. I think that's unfortunately, even if a majority of many MEPs use that money well. The other part wants to be left alone and use that extra money as an extra salary. So, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that the people that are clamoring the most for not doing it are the ones that are receiving, are putting it in the bank account and doing exactly what they want with it. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what the European Ombudsman makes of this in the end.
Indeed. Also, because one thing that they have also approved in these new rules is that they are going to send now this 4,000 to a different account, a bank account.
Yes,
but I was like,
that was already the rules. That was already.
But I mean, it's going to be pretty easy still to be using that money for the will that you would like, or to transfer that, I guess. So
yeah, but it's better for traceability, because before, like back in the days, there was not this distinction. So they were sending that directly to the personal account of the MEP, and so the money was getting lost in the stream. So then the administration said, yeah, no, you have to open a different, dedicated bank account. That way it makes the traceability much easier, because then if they want to make a control, they don't have to control the personal expenses of the MEP. And of course, there could be question about personal data, etc. They say, okay, you have a dedicated account for that. I'm just going to look in detail to that account, because that's where the money is supposed to go. So that's to an extent that makes sense on this. But well. Sn0r, what news did you wanted to discuss with us tonight?
Well, I mean, there was two bits of news. I mean, there was so much news this week, but two bits of news kind of jumped out at me. As you know, I mean, I run the r/European Union sub on Reddit, so I see lots of stories come by about the EU. One of the ones that really caught my eye was an article by Euractiv. Which was EU finalizes deal spelling death of diesel and petrol cars, which was very interesting. I mean, the EU has finally finalized the plans, which of course still have to be okayed by the council, as far as I know, about having no more diesel and electric cars being on sale in 2035. This was, of course, something that created a lot of stir online, let's say. People are genuinely interested in, well, how are we going to do this? Is our electricity grid ready for this? Are we, is electric cars are still expensive? How are we going to do this? And that really kind of jumped out at me. And the other one is, well, as you know, I'm Dutch, so this one jumped out at me kind of in a personal way. That the Dutch Parliament this week also came up with a law, or they recommended to the to our prime minister to hold out on the future accession of Bulgaria and Romania to Schengen. This is also something that was that's been going for a while. I think at least since 2011.
Yeah, it's been 11 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. So the Dutch Parliament basically said that our Prime Minister Mark Rutte should not vote for accession of Bulgaria and Romania to the Schengen zone without having more information on things like corruption, on things like how EU money is spent and cross-border crime and things like that. Now, this is a really interesting kind of thing because as far as I understand it, our Prime Minister doesn't have to adhere to this recommendation by Parliament. But since the elections are coming up in the Netherlands for the Senate, this plays into the hands of the far right and the right at the moment, and we are not sure how this is going to be. I think this December they're going to try to decide on it in the European Council.
Yes, they have to take a decision in December. Normally.
Yeah, exactly. So this will be really interesting to watch. How will the Dutch deal with it? I think the Dutch are the only country formally that's not said yes, we want to have Romania and Bulgaria in Schengen. So this is going to be drama, and as you know, I love drama. So
yeah. I mean, on that last point, I think France, even if they didn't say anything, probably they would be happy that Netherlands take the bullet for that because France has never been so keen on having Bulgaria and Romania in Schengen as well. And like I had a Romanian MEP, Bulgarian MEP on stream a couple of weeks ago, and we discussed the fact that they're supposed to be in Schengen, and obviously Bulgarian people are pretty pissed off. They say, yeah, we've been fulfilling the criteria for pretty much 11 years, and we've been kept in limbo because the other member state in the West, and particularly France and the Netherlands, and I would not be surprised if Denmark is also in. Denmark is not in Schengen. Is he?
No, they are in Schengen. They're not in the Eurozone.
Yeah, they're not. Okay, yeah. So Denmark.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Could also be a potential suspect as block to block the deal, but yeah, that's been a long running thing, and in there it's definitely up to the member state. In Spain, is it a topic like people talk about, Karim, or not at all?
I think in Spain we have a problem. I don't know, in fact, if this is happening to the rest of the EU countries, but in Spain, we really like to talk a lot about our country and what is happening inside, and that's the biggest drama always. And we always feel like we are the shame of Europe. Like, oh, look what happened in this small committee, in this small region. And we think that's going to be the biggest drama. It doesn't mean that it's not a drama and that we don't have to take care of that problem, whatever it is, corruption, political accountability, whatever. But we have that problem. So I would say no. I would say a lot of European topics in Spain, they are like just passing away.
Yeah, I think it's the same in every country. Yeah, I think it's the same in every country. But like Andros is saying in the chat that one of the reasons for to not let them in Schengen back in the days was the fear from some Western countries that low-paid workers would swarm France, the Netherlands, etc., and take the job of people. Which it's true that he's been one of the concerns, and I would not be surprised if it was not still one of the reasons why it's politically toxic. At least, I mean, for me, in my opinion, here it's not really a matter of like. Does Bulgaria and Romania like fulfill the criteria or not? I think like the Commission has been saying yes, they are fulfilling the criteria. It's just that the topic is politically toxic in some member states.
Exactly. I think. I mean, in the Dutch case, I mean, like Karim said, I think European things play very low in the discourse. So most people didn't even know that the Parliament had said, please, Mark Rutte, don't do this. But we actually don't know. I mean, this is the thing. We don't know what the reaction of the Dutch government will be. I mean, the Dutch government is a coalition government, so there's multiple parties which weigh in on this, and it could be that the Netherlands just decided to abstain, from the vote, and that would make it really interesting, because then who would pick it up, and then the chances are that Bulgaria and Romania will join Schengen. So this is going to be this is going to be beautiful to watch, you know.
Yeah.
to put it like that. Yeah. For someone like me who's an EU watcher, it's you know, it's going to be gold. So
I'm pretty sad for Bulgaria because I don't know if we have any good news from that country. I mean, honestly, they are losing population since, I don't know, 20 years, something like that.
Yeah.
They're having, I don't know how many elections in the last 1 year and a half.
True.
I saw one map like 2 weeks ago, something like that, that Bulgaria was the European country together with Albania, I think, that they had the lowest percentage of people believing in life after dying. So I was like, they don't even have that hope. That's pretty sad.
Well, then it's a matter of religion, so everyone believes what they want, but it's true that unfortunately they don't have a lot of good news.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, the Bulgarian elections last were quite interesting. First, you know,
well, they're interesting for us because we're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, like I said, I love the drama. You know, I'm here for the drama, guys. But to me, it was really interesting because the party that won the elections in Bulgaria this time around is the GERB, which is a pro-European party, and they a very pro-European party. I think in their name actually it says, you know, we're
Yeah, they are in the EPP. They are in the EPP gap.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's a I mean, they're definitely pro-Europe, and you know, I mean, the way that their discourse in their parliament goes is also very pro-European. So at least that's very encouraging. Of course, I mean, I've spoken to people as well who've said, you know, I mean, the corruption in Romania and Bulgaria is still very, very present. Things aren't reported. You know, things are kept quiet deliberately. But you know, I mean, as far as the criteria goes, I think, like you said, they've passed all of them. You know, this is no longer about can they do it? Should they do it? No, it's purely about internal politics at this point. So you know, we'll see what comes from that. You know, especially with the Dutch elections coming up. So.
And on the second topic that you mentioned, so the ban by 2035 of the petrol kind of engine for cars. I have to say I haven't followed this file too much. I know that it's been like in council it's been a big fight. Like the other country managed to convince the Germans to go. Thanks, explains for the prime. Have been like convincing Germany to accept this idea, especially, which was not a given the size of the automobile industry in Germany. But from what I saw on Twitter, like yesterday and today, like the EPP was not happy at all about it. Like they were pulling press release condemning the deal, saying, "Oh yes, we don't agree with the ban. It's unrealistic. It's going to create an Havana effect." So I was like, "What the fuck is the Havana effect?" So I went looking, and actually there's not an official definition of it. It's just that what they call the Havana effect is that people would not be able to afford new electric cars, hybrid cars, etc., and so they would just use old, very old cars that are polluting, etc., because that's the only thing that they can afford. So, yeah, it's let's see what happens. Even if like you mentioned, Snow, like even if we're talking only about sales of new car, so it doesn't ban altogether any kind of car with an oil engine, petrol engine. It's still gonna be interesting to see. Okay, is the electric grid able to follow? Because buying electric cars is fine, but if you don't have the ability to recharge them, is the electricity production enough? Because it's gonna be like if we have to switch massively from the current cars that we have, which are mostly petrol engines, to electric cars, is going to put a huge drain on the energy production, but also on the network. And in the context of energy crisis, that's going to be interesting to see how they are going to manage that.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, like you said, is the second-hand car market as well. There has to be enough time for the second-hand car market to develop in this and be pushed to develop as well. You know, I mean, it would be really nice to buy, you know, a second-hand electric car with a working battery. You know, I think that's the thing. But one of the things that was mentioned in the discourse which I've had, and I've been following about this, is that as the petrol cars become less and less on the road, so will the places where you can tank up your car. The tank stations themselves will become less and less viable and less interesting for companies like Total and Shell to keep running. So it'll be increasingly more difficult for people with petrol cars to get their petrol. And this is also something that kind of has to be taken into account. I mean, I think it's kind of more of a storm in the teacup in some ways, because we still have 14, 15 years to figure this out. So I mean, there's a lot that can happen in that time, and there's a lot of things that the European Union and the local governments can do to promote this. I mean, it's high on the agenda, especially with the last winter which we've had, where temperatures weren't as cold as they were supposed to be, and of course this summer where the temperatures were just out of this world. I think people know that something's going on and they want to do something about it. They just want to do it in a way that doesn't break their bank account, as it were. And of course with the new Ukraine-Russia thing going on, it's gas prices have gone through the roof. How are we all going to afford this? And I think that's what worries most people. I mean, that's what worries me, to be honest. All these price changes and differences to our energy mix will have a profound effect on the cost of living. As in, you go to the supermarket, all that stuff has to be transported there. And I think that's also one of the big worries that people have. But like I said, I mean, we still have 14 years to figure this out. So on the one hand, yes, it's something that we should be looking into. On the other hand, let's not say that it's all doom and gloom, and this is going to be a problem that's unsolvable, or So that's my view on this, basically.
Do you think, well, both of you, this is going to be a topic that is going to be worked out like with deep focus from now until 2035, or that it's going to be the typical case of, oh, it's 2030, maybe we have to run and to do things quickly? Because
I mean, here I think it's more about the industry. It's about, because like Sn0r is saying, oh yes, we have 14 years. I mean, 14 years when you're talking about changing completely the direction of an industry, it's not that much. It's not that much. Because they have to change pretty much the entire market, consumer habits, the design of cards, etc. And Andros was making a couple of good points in the chat, saying, yeah, another one thing that that a consequence of that, beyond the cost of living for people, etc., is that to produce electric cars, if you're only talking about electric cars, to produce the batteries, you need a number of resources that we don't have in Europe. And where are they? They're in China mostly. It's rare earth, so there's going to be problematic as well.
I think one of the big things that was in the news this week was that the French are starting their own lithium mining facility now. I mean, it's not that we don't have the resources in Europe. For some of the stuff, yes, we do have to import it, basically. But there's a lot of resources which we can use, which are here, but which are just not economically viable to exploit yet. And I think this is one of the points. I mean, this has also something to do with the European Chips Act. How do you get local production going? You have to make it viable for companies to invest in this, and then not lose money or be competed out of the market by companies in, for example, like you said, China or India or other places, where these resources are available. So these are things that I think that can be solved. It's going to cost a lot of money, and I think that's also a big thing. As to what Karim said about, will we wait until 4 years before the deadline and go, oh shit, we have to do stuff? I think we might, I think that's inherent to our political systems. I mean, our political leaders are elected on a 4-year, 5-year basis. So that's the kind of time span that they think in. This of course makes it really hard to kind of do long-term planning, but I think the first steps in this have been made, and I think that it's easier to build on the first steps than having to start all over again. So I'm reasonably hopeful. I'm not, I'm not going to say, no, we're going to do it straight away.
I mean, it's going to be difficult. I mean, I would not be surprised if in 2030 we're like, oh shit, it's in 5 years, we still haven't done half of the things that we should have done. That's going to happen. I'm pretty sure. But there's also, on top of that, like the social acceptability of this. Like I was reading an article, I don't remember if it was in Interactive or Politico, about like a mine that is supposed to be open in Sweden or Finland, and it's a mine to extract rare earth, so to build up the capacities in Europe, etc., critical raw materials and all that. And so you could say, yeah, that's good for European sovereignty. It's good to play into the going more into electric cars, produce solar panels, etc. But then when the local population say, no, we don't want a mine in our backyard, and that's the problem, is that everyone is okay. Say, yeah, of course we should be reindustrializing Europe. We should have local production capacity, local mines, etc. But then nobody wants it in his backyard.
Yeah,
and so it's a matter of
exactly, yeah.
So it's I think like it's something that we've seen like rising a lot over the past couple of years, is like the fear among like national government of popular backlash. Like in France, we had the yellow jackets, and like something that comes now every time there is a discussion about environment policy, about energy crisis. Yeah, but what kind of backlash are we getting from people on the ground? I mean, for those who don't know in the chat, like in France, 4 years ago in 2018, we had the so-called Yellow Jacket movement, which so it was a social protest movement all around France, which started initially. Then it got a bit out of hand on plenty of different topics, but it started as an opposition to a tax on fuel, which was supposed to be okay as part of the environmental policy. We're gonna increase the taxes on fuel to push people towards using greener energy, and there was a huge backlash from people, and that started like the whole process of the yellow jacket, like pretty much trashed the Macron's government for a year and a half. And since then, like everyone said, oh yeah, we don't want that kind of movement in our country. We need to manage expectation, blah blah blah. And it's been like a kind of a difficult for politically, because you have two opposite obligations. You have the obligation towards the environment, and then you have the obligation towards like social acceptability, and that's something unfortunately we haven't found the right answer to, at least so far.
Yeah, I think the it's also a matter of the status quo. Everyone wants things to stay the same, because change is scary and change is difficult. Yeah. And we all know, I mean, most, well, not all, but 80% of the population of Europe know that climate change is a problem. Things are getting worse. The summers are getting hotter. It's getting more difficult to grow crops in some regions, because of the water shortages this summer. So we know that some things has to be done, but the problem is now how and why, and the why has been answered, but the how is now the big issue. And I think by pushing it to 2035, it's a short time. It's three legislative elections for most countries, but it does give us a little bit of time to move the meter a little bit closer to how it is. And there will be a point, I think, where there's a kind of crossover point where we have enough electric cars for it to be viable to buy a second-hand electric car for a reasonable price, for let's say 3,000 or 5,000 euros. We're kind of already reaching that in the Netherlands, but I mean, we're a small country, so it's easier to have charging points all over the place. This is something that bigger countries like Spain and France have to still get to grips with. I mean, you don't want to be driving through the center of Spain in the summer and then not finding a charging point. You've got a problem. So I think this is going to be a topic that's going to keep coming back. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and especially now I think it's a pretty tough topic, because as you were saying, making changes, it's always tough, and especially now in a crisis situation, people didn't want to make a change, and they already think are doing, and they are. We all are making an effort for paying the bills, for trying to keep even calm in the situation that we are living now. So it's a tough topic to sell now to the majority, I would say, of the population, honestly. And also, there's something I don't agree with. What you were saying. You said that for maybe the majority of the country is going to be 3-4 elections. Well, for Bulgaria, maybe it's 50. That's the only thing that I don't agree with.
Ooh, and then we've also got Italy to deal with, guys. Come on, you know.
True. Yes. But Italy, at least they have the presence, the European Union. If they mess it up, doesn't matter a lot. They still have good food. They have tourism, so it's quite the good.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that that's but it will take. I mean, the thing is that because of like I said, the status quo makes people want to kind of hark to the past as well. Mm-hmm. So you can see that now in a lot of countries, the right is gaining in this, and so is the far right. They are exploiting these problems. And this will also, of course, be a danger, and this is one of the reasons that Forum Gottesfunken is so ready to kind of broadcast the messages that the EU is giving. I mean, the EU is terrible at selling itself.
Oh yes.
I mean, they do some really good stuff, and there's some really good initiatives out there, but they could do so much more to make their point of view, or the point of view of the European Commission, known to the users, because this is something that people just don't talk about.
Yeah. I'm looking at the time, so I'm gonna switch to my own bit of news, and then we're gonna move on, because Karim has to go like in half an hour. On my side, like the bit of news I wanted to discuss a bit was Germany, and let's say the difficulties that Germany has, or at least the Chancellor Olaf Scholz has with France to. Is there a problem in the Franco-German engine, and also is Germany reproducing the mistakes it did with Russia by increasing its economic relationships, or maintaining its very strong economic relationship and / dependence with China? So to catch up those who haven't seen it, this week Olaf Scholz met with Emmanuel Macron in Paris for lunch, but this lunch was organized a bit at the last moment, because traditionally, like once or twice a year, as part of the Franco-German relationship, you have to have like a common government meeting, like where the governments of France and Germany meet all together, like to discuss, like the entire government of both countries meet together and like hash out things, discuss common policy, etc. And this year it was cancelled, at least for this one, because like the differences between France and Germany politically were so wide that they didn't manage to find a common ground. Like for instance, on defense policy, like the French were pretty pissed off at the Germans, because the Germans are buying American instead of investing into European projects. They were pissed off by the energy fund that Germany did, the 200 billion fund subsidies that the German government announced. They were pretty pissed off about it, the French, because they discovered it in the news. They were not given any heads up. So there's a kind of frustration among the French that Germany is a bit going like on its own and not giving a heads up to the other. So this accumulated over time. There's also the question of China again, because Olaf Scholz is going to a trip with a business delegation in China, and France had been saying to the Germans, well, it might not be a good idea right now, because Xi Jinping, so the prime minister of China, has just been reinstated for a certain mandate, and is basically becoming like the one guy you can't cross in China. It was already the case before, but even more so now. And France was like, okay, Olaf, it might not be the best of idea, or try to do something common. Like if you recall, maybe a couple of years ago, when Xi Jinping came to France for a visit, Macron invited Angela Merkel and, well, actually it was in 2019. He invited Angela Merkel and Jean-Claude Juncker to the meeting to basically show China, okay, it's you're not just meeting France, you're meeting actually the EU as also. We're moving together on this. And so Macron had said to Olaf Scholz, okay, maybe trying to do something else. We go together. We go with Ursula. That way we show a united front. And Olaf said, no, I'm going to go on my own with my business delegation. So yeah, it has the question of whether like the Germans are not too like focused on themselves, like on domestic politics, and not taking into account like the European solidarity, and then it plays into the relationship with China. I mean, we know that in the context of the war in Ukraine, there's been a lot of difficulties to have sanctions and all that because of the extensive relationship between Germany and Russia for the energy dealing, and there is a worry that they're doing it again with China. So yeah, kind of an interesting thing happening there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that also jumped out at me was that there's also a problem between Germany and France, for example, when it comes to weapons development. We've seen that the joint European fighter project, which is something that is supposed to be done around 2030, 2035, has now been pushed back to 2050. And I think this is also something that kind of plays into it. Germany's spending, what was it, 100 billion euros this year on updating its army, and some of that money should go into Europe. And I think Macron actually had a program that he rolled out this week, which was basically buy European. Just buy European stuff, and I think that also really plays into it, like you say. So it's going to be interesting to see how this relationship develops. I mean, Macron and Merkel got along like a house on fire. They really enjoyed each other's company. I think Olaf Scholz is more of a chancellor that has a more wait and see attitude than perhaps Merkel did in some of these issues. So I mean, it's also about the personal relationships.
Yes. Yeah. Karim, what's your take?
Yeah, I still remember the farewell, that video of Merkel and Macron, and I think that says the kind of relationship that has been lost between Germany and France. Also, Germany, I don't know, it's making some steps pretty strange, because you were mentioning those 200 billion it was that they wanted to spend, and then the controversy was because the leaders of the European Union, they were like, oh no, how are you going to do this, you're going to break the market and so on. And then even their own constitution wasn't allowing them to do that. So it was like, what is happening here? I mean, how can Germany make this kind of mistakes? It's an epic fail.
So it's illegal under German law to have this kind of stuff. Oh wow, yes, I didn't know that.
It's a constitution anti-constitutional.
Oh wow. Okay,
I was surprised finding that.
Not, Olaf Scholz. I mean, I've spoken to a number of Germans about this, and they're not happy with Scholz at the moment at all. Because of if you consider that the Green Party in their parliament is more anti-Putin than Scholz himself, that already says something.
No, for sure.
If the Greens are more like, we need to sanction these guys and we have to give the weapons to Ukraine, and the Social Democrats are like, I don't know about this. Something's going on, guys.
I mean, you remember in the SPD, the SPD still has not managed to kick out Gerhard Schröder, the former chancellor, socialist chancellor of Germany, who was in the board of Gazprom and is the Putin's German's BFF, and is still part of the SPD. They haven't managed to kick him out of the party. So, I mean.
Yeah. And these are the Social Democrats we're talking about. This is not the EPP party, This is, because we, I think everyone was kind of expecting the EPP to be less pro-Ukraine than they actually were. Considering that Merkel was the one that signed the Gazprom deal, considering that the relationship between Germany and Russia was basically set in stone by the Christian Democrats in Germany. But now you can see that the Social Democrats actually have a real problem as well, and I think that's really interesting to watch. It's definitely something that we're going to have to come back to at some point, MEP.
Definitely. Let's move on to more funny stuff. So, like, I asked each of you to send me a meme that you found partly funny this week, and so we're gonna comment on it. So let's start with you, Sn0r. So I'm gonna show to people the meme that you sent. So it's a map of Europe. So can you explain a bit the meme and why you thought it was particularly funny?
Yeah, hold on. I'll have to get it because I'll have to read it to you guys, right? It's better when read out loud, I think. After meticulous research, I've concluded that people from the Netherlands facing side of a European country look down on the opposing side further from the Netherlands, aka Holland. This is generally true, and the only exceptions or partial exceptions involve either very small countries or countries in which the population structure is particularly imbalanced. I do believe this does mean that the Dutch are at the highest echelon of life on earth, and everyone aspires to be like them. I thought this was beautiful. As a Dutch person, thank you very much for the person who made this post. I see that they're actually from Finland on 4chan. So,
it's a 4chan,
this
yes.
was really close to my heart, and especially considering how we discussed the thing about Bulgaria and Romania in going into Schengen. I think there might be a kernel of truth to this, guys.
I'm not going to comment on the Dutch supremacy. As a French, we have our own supremacy to discuss on that, our own complex about that. It's a question of point of view.
Yeah, true. And I realized that, as with Karim being from Spain, this might be a little bit of a sore topic, but on the other hand,
in Spain, it was we had quite a hot topic. It was quite a hot topic, the relations with Netherlands when Ruud, he made those. No, it wasn't Ruud, in fact. It was who was the minister, the economic minister, right? Who made
Wopke.
Yes, Wopke. Yeah. Indeed, I still remember some tweets of the Spanish journalist explaining to the Spanish people how to pronounce his name, because it was going to be pronounced a lot of time, and it was. Well, I think in Spain we still don't have generally speaking, not personally speaking, I think in Spain we still don't have a good idea of the Netherlands because of that, like being called the poor people asking for the money, even though some people in Spain, I have to say, they agree. I mean, they're really angry about how we spend the funds, the European funds, or generally how we rule our country. But still, if there's something that unites Spanish people, because we have a lot of discussions and divisions, if there's something, is that someone else from another country is like saying something badly about our country. I mean, the only time that I saw Spanish people united was that there was one journalist from the BBC, I think, he was saying bad things about Spain in comparison with the UK. It was really surprising that people that hated monarchy, people supporting monarchy, they were together, Spanish people, just for fighting through Twitter to this guy. So
yeah. I think that's something that all our countries kind of have to deal with. It's okay for us to criticize our countries, but as soon as someone else does it, that's it. Okay, guys, they're the evil ones now.
Exactly.
Yes.
But this is kind of, this meme was kind of the opposite of that. Like suddenly the Dutch are the superior ones. I was like, oh my god, yeah, guys. Thank you very much for that meme.
All right, let's switch to Karim's meme. Up. There we go. So Karim, can you explain us a bit the meme, because it's in Spanish, so you'll have to do the translation.
Yes. So basically, I don't remember. Well, I don't know if you remember. There was I think this summer it was pretty popular to make this kind of meme. So the first on the left is asking any doctor, and then this man in the suit like, "Hey, I'm a doctor. What's going on?" And the woman is like, "He's having a heart attack." And then the man says, "Well, I'm doctor in European affairs." And then the woman is like really, really serious, saying like he's going to die. And he's like, the man asking, well, does he have the insurance card, the European health insurance card? Like that's the only thing I can do because I'm a doctor in European affairs. This meme was done with a lot of variations of I'm a doctor. Oh, he's having a heart attack. Well, I'm a doctor in maths, and the woman again, he's going to die. And the man is like, does he know the formula of the blah blah blah? Something for maths. So that's the meme.
I haven't seen this template. I have to say, I've never seen.
Look into this, MEP. Definitely.
I will.
I
But
know what Karim's talking about. This is something for you, man.
You can play a lot with this. It was summer. It's the moment in which the European institutions are like promoting the health card. So I was like, let's try to make a meme. And I have to say, I'm pretty happy. It's been the only time, and I wasn't even looking for that I got a like from DigiMeme.
Oh,
nice.
If
We all
Jimin
know
gives a
Jimin,
like,
he's the director general of memery in the EU, so we have to respect him definitely.
Yes.
Fabio knows his memes. That's for sure. But yeah, I will use the template because indeed there is definitely potential. And quickly mine. So it relates to the discussion that we had about Germany. So it's the Dory, the fish from Finding Nemo. She has memory troubles. She forgets everything, and so it's Germany saying, oh well, actually becoming dependent on authoritarian countries like Russia was a mistake, and we will never make that mistake again. Which is what Scholz said. And the entire coalition said during the campaign, and then suddenly, oh look, economic opportunities with China. Let's go right for it. And it was,
incredible.
Yeah, actually, I think this meme, I would have to check. I think this is the most successful meme I ever made on the channel. I think it got 5,000 likes or something. So I'm pretty happy with it. And like when I put it on Reddit as well, and people were super pissed off. Like a lot of German people were pissed off because they thought I was referring only like to. So I don't know if you follow in Germany, in Hamburg, there is part of the harbor that is supposed to be sold to Costco, which is a Chinese company, and they thought I was referring to that. Well, actually, I'm referring to that, but also to the general problem of the relationship between Germany and China. I was like, oh yeah, but Costco is just buying 20% of a small company in Hamburg. How dare you say that? I was like, dude, I mean, you're missing kind of the point. the point of the meme.
I think the controversiality of the meme is proportional to how many upvotes you get on Reddit.
Yeah, exactly.
I also saw your absolutely. I have to mention this, MEP. I saw the great meme you posted about Thierry Breton dropping a
grenade
down the stairs at Elon Musk. That one really got to me. I wanted to use that one, but I thought, this is your meme. I'm not going to touch it. The glory goes to you.
Thanks. Yeah, actually, I was pretty happy with that because I had this template, and so I have a database of template, and I was like, it's been a few days. I was like, how can I use this template? I was looking for ideas, and then I see this. Okay, yeah, it's fine. Thank you, Thierry. Here's the meme. And it worked well, so yeah.
It's wonderful. I mean, I'm a big fan of Breton. As you know, he's also runs the EU SPA, the European Space Administration, and what they're going to do soon is they're going to in 2024, so in 1.5 years, they're going to launch a rival to Starlink.
Okay.
So Elon Musk, your days are numbered, man. I know Elon Musk watches this show, so I have to
exactly. I mean, I'm getting furious tweets right now. I may get deleted from Twitter after that. Before we move on, like Karim, something funny happened to you in Parliament. Tell us what happened to you.
Oh yes, briefly. The strangest thing that has happened to me is that I was recording a video for my YouTube channel, a video showing the European Parliament from the inside, because I saw the few times that, at least in TV, in Spain, we get to see the European Parliament is because there is some kind of corruption or controversy, which is like, okay, it's nice, but would be nice also to show the European Parliament in another context, I guess. Then I was recording. I had the permission, obviously, from the spokesperson of the European Parliament just to make sure that everything was good. I had printed even my paper. I had it in my bag. And I was a trainee at that time. It's important data. So I was recording, and suddenly I got like someone saying from my bag, hey, you, like in Spanish. I was like, what's happening, And then I went to them. They were two guards, Spanish guards of the Parliament. And they were like, no, you cannot record directly. You can't record in the European Parliament. I was like, what? I mean, I got the permission. And they were like, but who are you? What are you doing here? And I was like, well, I'm a trainee. And they were like, poof, he's even a trainee. Oh my God, like, what a mess, what the hell are you thinking about recording? I was like, well, I have the permission of the spokesperson of the Parliament. Then I showed them the paper, and they were like, well, but you cannot record here. And I was like, yes, because this is not an area for social interaction. I'm recording the Vox box. Well, like, what the hell? Where's the complaint? Suddenly, one of them was like, so you're recording for YouTube, you said? I was like, yes. And he was like, you're the one making videos about the COVID situation, the economy in the European Union in Spanish. I was like, yes, like a strange, like suddenly you like me in a matter of 5 seconds. And I was like, yes. And he was like, okay, you can record, yeah, whatever you want. I was like, what? why the hell am I following the rules?
Yeah,
It's not the
you're a
rules.
celebrity now. You're a celebrity now. You can't get away anymore. You're well known across Europe. So,
It was so strange, honestly. Like, I mean, it's funny because I always want to take the funny part of every situation, but in the end, it's like pretty sad because imagine, like, I'm trying to record something, the feeling that I got afterwards, and I had to still keep recording was like I was doing something bad, and I was like, no, I wasn't. But the situation, the feeling, people looking around, like, what's happening? I mean, I'm even trying to give a good impression of the parliament, and what I'm getting is a bad impression of the parliament.
Yeah,
That's what happened to me.
That's the parliament for you. I mean, parliament is always a bit arbitrary, let's say. I mean, it's true that in principle you're supposed to ask for permission, which you did before filming a film in the parliament. But indeed, like sometimes, I mean, it's like in theory you're supposed to wear your badge every time in the parliament. In practice, nobody respects the rules, and no, the guards will not stop everyone. Oh, you have your badge, you have your badge, you have a badge. But yeah, it can be very arbitrary, and in the end, depend on whether like the guard that you're talking to likes you or has a good impression of you or not. But yeah, that's unfortunately the arbitrary side of the parliament. I'm going to move on because Karim has to go in 10 minutes. Karim, your carte blanche. What do you have for us today?
Well, in fact, I think this is not going to surprise anyone. I wanted to talk about how we communicate the European Union. So basically, because I've been receiving a lot of input in these almost 5 years now, disseminating about the EU, mainly in YouTube and now also in Twitch. And well, I just wanted to open this topic because I think we, the three, have a different experience concerning the European Union. So I'm still receiving some, let's say, critics. I mean, not bad critics, but like people who are not sure about how we disseminate about the European Union in social media. Like maybe it's really basic, maybe you are reaching people that are Eurosceptic. Do you want to reach these people? And first of all, yes, we have to, in my opinion, we have to reach every people because they are part of the population and they're going to vote anyways, and they would like to be informed about the European Union. I think that's the base. If you want to criticize the EU, you have to know how the parliament works. For instance, if you want to support the EU, you have to know how the parliament works. So that's something that's not changing. And I still get people who are really skeptic about disseminating of the European Union in social media, or they even think it's not like something serious, well, this is a kind of a hobby. And for me, it was. Until 1 month ago. But that's the topic that I wanted to open. I don't know if you receive these critics or if you have people commenting on you like, hey, it's really good what you do in Twitch, in YouTube, but what do you do for a living? What's your real job?
Actually, you're right. I mean, there's been over time a lot of like looking down a bit on the way you communicate about the EU on social media. And I mean, to be fair, there's also difficulties for the EU to communicate on social media because it's very institutional. So like the Commission has to weigh its word, etc. So it's always a bit tricky. But at the same time, I feel there's a bit of a change because now we see more and more the Commission, the political groups in the Parliament doing memes about European politics. And it's fine because it really depends on which branch of the institution. Like for instance, you take DigiTrade, so the part of the Commission that is dealing with trade policy. They've been like among the most, I would say, advanced in EU communication. They do like very, they do regularly memes. They do like funny stuff to talk about their topics. And then when you go on the other side, on the other DGs, it's still very dry. It's very complicated. So unless you're in part of the bubble, you're not going to relate to anything they say. So it's kind of it's a slow change, but I think there is a change as well. Like it's true that for some time, like for people like Karim and I, and maybe also for you Sn0r, they were very let's say wary about people like us because they were a bit afraid. Say, okay, it's not a media we used to. Who are you? Are you going to let's say hurt us? Are you going to play to Eurosceptics? But then when they get to know you, it gets much better. In my case, so when I decided to start the Twitch channel, one of the reasons why I decided to do it as MEP assistant and not launch it as under a different name, under my name, etc., is because I had an established brand. Like in Parliament, people knew about MEP assistant, the assistant knew about MEP assistant. So when I was sending interview requests to MEPs, in quite many cases, the assistants knew about me. They knew my meme, so they were able to say to their boss, "Oh yeah, I know the guy is funny. You should do. This guy. It's not like a trick. He's someone who knows the parliament. He knows the institution. So it's not dangerous for you." So that helped quite a bit to be able to explain. Okay, I'm with you guys. We're on the same side, but I'm trying to push you to communicate differently on different platforms. But I think there is slowly a change of tack. And like in the chat, someone is making a good remark. Like Thierry Breton, his tweet about Elon Musk, it's something that you would not have seen 5 years ago. Like apart maybe from Margaret Vestager. I
remember one of the first real interactions I saw between commissioners on Twitter, for example, was that there was a deal in the Brexit negotiations, and I believe I think it was Michel Barnier who just replied with a thumbs up, to this whole tweet by I believe it was Tusk. Who said, we're going to send this now, and Breton was just like this, and that really got okay, they're starting to get it now, but it's still very, very kind of they're not sure. I think you see that the parliament is much more willing to do things that on social media than the commission is prepared to do. You can see this on the website as well. Josep Borrell has, of course, the EEAS website, which he kind of uses as his personal blog, which works quite well, but most of the other commissioners just don't bother with it. They rely on their staff to put messages in an archaic website which no one will read, and when we see all this kind of going on, then I think it's this is one of the things. It's starting to come, but it's not there yet. Like you said, there's a number of DGs which just don't get it yet, and we're moving into the new era. But of course, I mean, politicians are always going to be one step or one legislative
step behind,
behind what's actually going on, in these things. So I'm quietly hopeful that it's going better. But it's something that still has to be explored, and I mean this is why I think what we do at Forum Goddefunken is really important. What we do is we bring this stuff in the social media context to people so that they can discuss it. So yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's key for everyone in the end to have a voice, or at least different kind of resources, and not only like professional resources, because in the end, if you want to learn about the EU or even to be updated, you have a lot of good newspapers in English, even in Spanish, if I talk about my country. But I think we are still missing, or we are still exploring this part of entertaining with the EU in some way. I think that's going to be the key for opening the debate and for making it more transparent. I don't know if it's going to be better or worse for the project. I think it's going to be better in some ways because people are going to have more information, more easily, more available about the EU. But I think that's something that needs to happen.
No, I agree, and especially on the entertainment part. Like, it makes me think of, I don't know if you watched it, the TV show Parlement.
Yes.
So that's the first time we have a TV show about the European Parliament, and what I've seen is that, for starters, like in France, it worked pretty well. A lot of people have watched it. They are now preparing the third season of the show.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Okay.
They're on the third season now. And when I'm preparing my interviews, like usually what I do when I have a French MEP, I will go on Reddit on the French boat. I will say, okay, I'm interviewing this MEP. Suggest your question. And something that now I get every single time, I will have someone at least one person who will ask, "Oh, is the Parliament like in the TV show?"
Yeah.
It's interesting because I watched the show. I did a React series on Twitch with the authorization of the TV channel, etc. So the show is not so realistic about the parliament, but at least it created like interest. It gave people say, "Oh, this exists," and okay, let's see what part of it is true or not. So I thought it's interesting as a pretext to talk about Europe and to make it part of the let's say the pop culture. Like ultimately, if you want Europe to be like become a topic of the everyday life, it has to be part of popular culture, and
Indeed.
that's how you get it.
I think one of the things that that the Europe also or the European Parliament and the European Commission also have problems with is the fact that we've got so many languages. People want to watch the TV in their own language. I think if a series like that would be translated over, it might not necessarily work as well because different types of humor are different in different languages. They don't really mix. And this is something that you see that for example, I do watch some Dutch TV. I'm quite old, so sometimes I do watch some TV. There's very little kind of engagement with the parliament, precisely because there's nothing on TV about it. People it doesn't hit them where it matters, and you also see that in the number of people that vote for parliament. I think the European Parliament.
Yeah.
So this is something that again, this is something that that Europe and the European Union has to work on quite well. I know, for example, that the European Broadcasting Union, the EBU, which does the
Eurovision. Yeah.
Eurovision. Thank you. Yeah. They want to make a kind of common European broadcasting system where we can get news from every country. But that's news-wise. We also need it for entertainment. And I believe Arte, which is the German-French company, which does the which does free broadcasts and stuff. They now want to create something like this. But this is going to take maybe years to figure out because we're talking about 27 different countries, with their own culture, their own broadcasting systems. So this is something that's still it's going to take a while, I think, for this kind of thing to kind of be more accepted. But it's hopeful that at least in France, for example, and then in Belgium as well, that there's already a series which people can watch, and it's a start. So I'm quite happy with that.
We're on the way. Yes.
I'm looking at the time. Karim, I think you have to go to prepare a stream unless you want to stay a bit more. It's as you want, but you're welcome to stay. But otherwise, I'm not going to force you. I know that you have your own things to do on your channel. So thanks very much.
I have to prepare something basically for the chroma. I need a couple of minutes to make sure that it works. That's
that and the coffee and
the coffee.
Because it's already late, so I understand.
But Sn0r, stay with us. We'll continue the discussion. Don't worry. But
but it's been a pleasure. Many thanks for the invitation, and well, I'm happy that in the end we are on this way, the three together with our differences, trying to make the European Union closer to everyone and funnier in some way. So I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Karim, for coming.
Thanks to both of you.
Good luck for the preparation, and well, I'll see you around somewhere in Brussels. Let's go have coffee someday. By the way,
yes, we have to.
All right.
I'm so jealous right now.
Well, come over to Brussels, Sn0r. That's on you.
Yeah. I live just across the border, man. I can make it, 1.5 hours. But still,
yeah, see, you just have to come over. All right.
Someday.
Well, have a nice chat, both of you.
See you, Karim. Bye.
Bye.
All right, Sn0r, you have your own carte blanche, so tell us about it.
It's kind of, I texted it to you earlier. It's kind of the same, but it's more about the local media, like we've been discussing, the difference between the messaging that the EU does on social media versus the messaging that it does locally. What we see is, for example, with the new European Council, which we've had 1.5 weeks ago now, it was hardly reported in local media. Even though, for example, the energy crisis is something that was really 100% in the news. And I think this was something that that many people that, you know, I mean, I do these threads on Reddit at every European Council, and you see that the uptake on them is not very great. And I think that is mainly because people are not seeing the connection between what's going on in the European Council and what's going on in their real lives. You know, it's starting to become better, but this is something that still worries me. You know, like I've said before, and often, I think the European Union can do so much more with its messaging. You know, and I think this is still a worry for me. So I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, MP?
I mean, the issue with this is that wherever the member state, we always had this issue that national media, local media do not talk about the EU, and it's always kind of the chicken and the egg kind of a paradox. Are media not talking about Europe because citizens are not interested in Europe, and so why should media talk about it? Or are citizens not interested in Europe because media are not talking about it? And so where do you start? Where you go? I think it's also something that is improving a bit, where you've seen more, at least from what I can see, for instance, in France, we see more European news. We see also more people from the European Union coming to TV to talk about it. Like now we have like something that would never happen like 5 years ago. We've had several times Charles Michel, so the president of the council, coming on French TV to talk about European politics. Something you would not see that happen before. Of course, there's a question of language, like Donald Tusk, the previous president of the council doesn't speak French. Charles Michel is Belgian, so he can speak French, but we didn't see Juncker coming a lot on French TV. Now we have Charles Michel. We also had a couple of times Ursula von der Leyen. So we see a bit more Europe coming to national TV, particularly because TV remains the main medium for people to inform themselves. That's a fact. But yeah, I think there's still more to be done, and part of it is how the EU shapes its message to make it appealing to people, but also a lot of the other problem is national media and national politics, because then, I mean, the Commission can put all the material it wants out there. If the local TV, the national politician don't want to pick it up, they're not going to put a gun on the end of the local TV, say you're going to talk about my latest directives, you know, otherwise I'm pressing the trigger. So, you know,
I mean, one of the things that, you know, I think really changed the discourse. There's actually three things. I think Brexit, first of all, you know,
yes,
gave us an in, you know, and it's, you know, I mean, it's kind of fortunate that it's still being discussed in the United Kingdom, because, you know, the United Kingdom, for all its faults, is still kind of the gateway to America for Americans who are interested in Europe. You know, they will go either to Ireland or they will go to the UK. You know, or maybe both. So, you know, that it's still a blessing kind of in disguise, which helps us. The second one was COVID. COVID really kind of put the EU front and center for a lot of people, especially after, you know, the member states first tried to fight each other for PPE material, and then afterwards came to a good deal for that. And now, of course, the Ukraine-Russia crisis, which is something that the EU, I mean, it was very, very kind of ironic that by Vladimir Putin ignoring the EU in all the discussions just before the war, that the EU now has more prominence than it actually does because of that, you know. You know, I hate to say this, but thank you, Vladimir. You know,
I think it was not like it was not a guarantee. I think like if we're talking about Russia and Ukraine and all that, I think the fact that the EU managed to stick together, it's, I mean, Putin betted against it. He was thinking, like ironically, the UK did thought back during the Brexit negotiation. They thought that the member state would defend their national interest and they would not stick together, and Germany would stop things, Hungary would stop things, etc., etc. In the end, that's not what happened. Now we still have problems with Hungary, etc. But I think that in the context of the Russian war, I think it's more a question of like the member states and the EU had like its survival instinct kicking in, because I think that it was a matter of like the EU realizing, okay, if we let that go, one of us is going to be next.
Yeah.
I think that was more a matter, and so that on this, like the EU say, okay, we have to react and react strongly, because otherwise, what's going to stop Putin to go after the Baltic states or go against another country? So we have to stand our ground and put us up to it.
Yeah, I think that really those three events really gave local media an in on the EU.
Yes.
I'm not sure if they've actually taken that to heart. I know there's a lot more podcasts now about the EU locally in the Netherlands, for example, and in Germany. So that's at least that's at least hopeful. But I mean, it's very hard to kind of gauge how the interaction is with the EU, because there's never during the European Councils, it's always really great fun to see all the journalists collected in Brussels in the building, in the egg, watching all this stuff going on until way past midnight, with their bleary eyes, waiting for the spokesman of the European Commission and Michel and von der Leyen to come there. But it's never really reported on in local media, even though those things, those discussions which go on behind closed doors are the actual meat of the system. I mean, to me, this is something that the European Council has a very big role to play, and these are all national governments. So you'd expect a little bit more of an interaction with that. So I mean, I'm still hopeful that will change at some point. That we'll get more journalists from different countries just kind of camping out there, and we can watch them drink coffee on the webcams.
Yeah, I mean,
but I mean, this is something that that still needs a lot of improvement, I think.
Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, like if we're talking about the council meeting, I mean, you have to admit at the same time that when you have like a head of state or head of government that goes out of the head to talk to the press, a lot of time like the statements are very bland. Like it's not something that is very it's not breaking like we say in French, ça casse pas trois pattes un canard. It doesn't break the legs of a duck. So it's not breaking news a lot of time. It is very like calibrated messages. So it's not like it's difficult as well for national media to make this, to take this kind of comments and make it into an appealing package for the general audience. On the other side, I think Brexit, like you mentioned, did a great job. It was great for to talk about the EU, because suddenly like we had a live exercise into how far like the EU goes in terms of policy, how many things are affected by the EU, and like the media that had to say, okay, well, the UK is discovering that they can't do that because the EU is doing policies in there.
It's in one block, basically.
Exactly. So I think it did a great job into showing some parts of the EU that people will have no idea about. And it also, like what we saw following Brexit, is that actually it had a positive impact as well, in the sense that a lot of people became more attached to the EU than before.
So we see this on Forum Götterfunken as well. I mean, I joined in 2016, and that was because of what was going on with Brexit, of course. I mean, my wife is English, so this is something that directly affected us and our families. And I just wanted to know more about how the EU functions. What can I do to, if I don't know how the EU functions, and I'm a grown working man. There must be others out there like me who don't know how the EU functions. And I think that was really the trigger for me to kind of get into what the EU does and how it works. I mean, I had no idea about the relationship between the Commission, the Council, and the Parliament, for example. And over the years, this is something that I still see that it's a problem, but it's becoming less now. So I mean, the messaging is starting to become better in that way, and I think people care. People are starting to care because it's starting to touch them.
People are getting aware of it, and once people get aware about it, they start digging a bit, etc., and like it also has a political impact. Like in France, at least, since Brexit, you have or at least 2017, let's say, since 2017, you don't have, let's say, a major political party that is advocating for Brexit, for to leave the EU. They're all saying, no, we don't want to leave the EU. We want to change it, blah blah, from the inside. But none of them want to leave the EU officially. Then, in practice, a few of them, like if you take the far right or even part of the far left, in practice, they're pushing policies that would not be compatible with belonging to the EU. But at least on the message, they say, no, we don't want to leave the EU. We don't want to leave the EU. That's no longer our policy. which is already progress.
Exactly, and I think one of the main things that this past month was something that kind of highlighted that to me as well, is that the Italian elections, of course, with Meloni. Meloni was, we all know that first there was an Italexit coming, and they were going to leave the euro, and it was all kind of hype about that in Italy. That's now gone. They want to work with the EU. Even the center/far right parties are not ones that advocate for leaving the EU. There's still some parties out there in the Netherlands which do that. The second largest party actually is still advocating an exit.
Really?
Which is our good old friend Geert Wilders, who everyone knows from the cartoon problems that we've had, and his anti-Islam stance. He still advocates leaving the EU, but I don't think practically that would be possible because we live in a coalition. He'd have to make a coalition with parties which do not want this.
Yeah.
So in the end, that would moderate his position on the EU. But these parties still exist, but because the EU is much more known now and people see the benefits rather than just the negatives, it's very easy to be reactionary against something that you don't know, right? That people are scared by the unknown, and the amount of change that people want to go through and things like that. So I think it's very hopeful that this is happening in Europe. But work still needs to be done, guys.
At the same time, it's becoming a bit more insidious in the sense that, at least in the countries where you have less parties calling to leave the EU, they're saying, "Oh yes, we want to stay in the EU, but we want to change the way it works," and which on paper it's fine, but it's now they're waging more of a war on the values of the EU. Like they're contesting the values behind the EU, like the obvious examples, Viktor Orban, Fidesz, the peace in Poland. They say, yeah, we want to stay in the EU, but we want to change the direction of it, and they want to undermine the values that are still behind the EU, solidarity and freedom and all that. And that's becoming more insidious because they say, oh yeah, no, we're fine with you. We just want to change
everything,
change the software. Yeah, in a way, it's exactly. In a way, it's realistic in the sense that the EU can only be the product of what member state wants. So if you had 27 member states that wanted to go to make the EU something that supports illiberal democracies, that would happen.
Exactly.
That would happen because if the 27 agree on something, that's going to happen. But then it's becoming more dangerous, let's say, democratically, because they can put, let's say, the appearances of moderation, like Meloni saying, "Oh yeah, no, I want to stay in the EU, I want to cooperate, etc." But still, it's a bit of sabotage of the foundation because but at the same time, do we need that? I want to defend my national interest on this, blah blah blah. So it's becoming a bit more dangerous at the same time to defend because people will say, oh well, but she's not advocating to leave the EU. She just wants to change some things that seem absurd, etc. So that's fair. It's not a problem. So it's becoming more difficult to push back, I think. It can become a bit more insidious in terms of communication, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, a good parallel for what's going on. I mean, we're talking about, you could see that, for example, the groups that are in the ID faction in the parliament, they are starting to lose kind of members, and the ECR, which is the European Conservatives and Reformists, I believe, who are more kind of states' rights kind of people, people that they don't want centralization, they want to keep the sovereignty of the member states. This is something that we see played out in a slightly different way in the United States as well, where you have the federal government versus the states' rights people, who want to have more states' rights, and this is one of the reasons why, for example, the Supreme Court over there have their abortion issue at the moment. This is states' rights versus what can the federal government actually do, and this kind of play. I mean, it's a healthy thing if it's done within a context, within a framework which guarantees the democratic values and rights of the EU. And I think to kind of circle back to what I was saying about the how the local media deals with this. I think the local media, as in member state media, can do a lot more in highlighting, what the actual differences are. What are we doing in the EU? And I mean, like Karim said earlier, I think it's very encouraging that social media is now becoming part of that mix, because TV is starting to become more and more something that only old people watch. People are going towards YouTube, people are going towards Netflix. Arte is doing their own thing. The EBU is now doing their own thing. So it's much more online. The discourse is online, but that excludes a number of people who are not ready to go online, basically. And I think this is something that the EU still has to work on. So
yeah, of course. I mean, that's something that it's all fine to talk about the people that are like you. I mean, you can talk to people who are educated from big urban centers, etc. But then you have all the other that are not in the urban centers, and you have to talk to them as well. So it's definitely something that is more challenging to do, but that you have to do, because otherwise, like, you're just talking to a small fraction of the of the population, and you have to get those people that are not.
Yeah, or young people. I mean, young people are much more worldly than their older counterparts, let's say. I mean,
it depends. It depends. If you look at the young people, like in France, for instance, you look at the vote intention of let's say young people. A lot of them vote on the far right. So it's not necessarily that because you're no longer true that it's because you're young that you necessarily like more in favor of international things, etc. You have a lot of young people that are, on the contrary, like very national centric, as a bit of a reaction to globalism, etc., etc. But it's not as clear cut as before. You see, you have a lot of young people who are actually more radical and therefore against the EU.
But my question then is, does that have to do with the EU, or does that have to do with internal politics, for example, immigration, or, I mean, it does border the EU, as in the EU could do some things, but, if you were to take, for example, the opportunities away that someone would get from Erasmus or the new program that they're setting up for people in colleges, I think that young people see that much more as a benefit than, for example, people that have not grown up in that system. So I mean, I agree with you on that in some way, but on the other hand, does it really have to do with the EU? I think there's a lot of things that come into play for this. So
no, for sure, of course.
I must say, I'm an optimist, so I'm.
We have to be.
Yeah, we have to be, exactly.
We have to be. I'm looking at the time, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. Like, we're all tired, despite the fact that it's the weekend. I'm just going to do briefly the introduction for next week, and then we're gonna stop there. So chat. I mean, you can go Sn0r if you want. So I'm just going to show again. Post in the chat up your Twitter handle. There you go. So you can find it.
Thanks very, very much for having me, MEP.
You're very much welcome.
A pleasure and an honor to be on your program. As you know, I'm a big fan. So
you're always welcome. And thanks a lot, Sn0r, for that. So I'll see you around soon.
Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye. Up. All right. Let me just pull back. Actually, no, I'm going to go straight there. So I'm going to just quickly mention the program for next week. It's going to be a lighter week. I will explain you why in a second. Tomorrow it's Halloween, so we're going to play as it is tradition, a horror game, but co-financed by the EU. So we're going to play the game of Saturnalia. I'll manage it. So that's a game, a horror game that was co-financed by the EU. So it's going to be tomorrow night at 8. It's going to be fun. Come over. On Friday, I have an interview in French with Charles Goerens, with Renew Luxembourgish MEP. And as you can see, next Sunday, I'm not streaming. I'm not doing the news review, etc. Why? It's because I'm using the time to work on a project, something that I hope that I will show you soon enough. So it requires a bit of preparation. So I'm using the next Sunday as a prep time to prepare everything so that it's nice and fancy when you get to discover it. So that's why it's going to be a bit of a lighter week. But after that, we go back to the regular schedule with the two interviews a week and the Sunday stream as usual. So it's just like since it was a bit more of a quiet week with the days off, etc. I said, okay, I'll take the Sunday and I'll do my prep time for the thing I'm working on for the end of the season. As usual, I hope that you enjoyed the tonight's content, that you enjoyed the discussion with Karim and Sn0r. If you like what you saw, you can follow. By the way, thanks to Scipion and Liget for the follow. Thanks again to Explains Walker for the Prime. Of course, follow the channel. If you really enjoy what you saw, you can sub to the channel. You can toss a coin to your streamer via Coffee. You can follow me on my other social media. You can have the links right there in this. So Twitter, Discord, all the good things. Just have to click and then you find me on everywhere. And yeah, on this note, I hope that you enjoyed. I wish you a good evening and I hope to see you tomorrow or some other time on the channel. Have a good one, guys. See ya.